Hello, listeners. Welcome to an audio exploration of the acoustics of the Smith Opera House for its 125th anniversary in 2019. My name is Austin Jennings. I am a recent graduate of Hobart and William Smith, and I will be your guide. A year ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to work with Professor Chris Woodworth, along with a fellow student, Grady Hollister, to research the history of the Smith Opera House. Throughout our work together, I was always perplexed by the current acoustics of the Smith and the history behind them. Looking for some answers, I spoke with Kelly Walker and Terren Waranis during the summer of 2018. I asked Kelly to join the conversation since I have worked with him a lot during my time in Geneva.
The reason I know Austin is because I am the resident sound designer for Hobart and William Smith College's Department of Theater, which encompasses more conceptual sound design, actually creating sound designs for the individual productions more so than building a sound system. We have a space that was recently built and commissioned in the last 3 years. It was put together by a really terrific company that does this, and they basically gave me a heck of a sound system to work with. So my background, which is primarily radio first, theater second, a fair amount of music, isn't really very oriented around acoustics, though of course you can't do these disciplines without having some background in acoustics. And the reason I know Terren is because I became acquainted with Terren through your grandmother, who asked if I would be willing to talk to you when you were still, I think you were still at Finger Lakes Community College studying, and we became friendly, and it took you all of about a year, maybe two after graduation to become enormously better at all things live sound than I'm ever going to be. So you caught and surpassed me, and I don't have enough years left at this point to even begin to catch up, so I tend to turn to Terren for lots and lots of advice.
Because Terren was the technical director of the Smith at the time, I knew he would have some interesting thoughts about the theater's acoustics as well.
Well, Kelly gives me too much credit, but it's, as you said, after going to Finger Lakes Community College for audio engineering, I just immersed myself into all this stuff, initially with studio sound and, mixing techniques, live recording or recording in the studio and everything like that, and getting a brief understanding of acoustics and then into actually the physics of sound. And once you get all of that, you can kind of bring things together yourself on why things work the way they do, and working in multiple different spaces from there. Learn more and more as you go. After college, I ended up here audio recording or doing live sound, which, really got me into the swing of things, and started doing freelance live sound recording, everything in between, and then getting to my position here as technical director at the Smith, and just learning more every day.
Both Kelly and Terren were open about the fact that neither of them are acoustical engineers. However, I knew that with the sound expertise that they did have, we could at least make educated assumptions about why the acoustics of the Smith are the way they are. As the three of us sat down in Terren's office at the Smith and set up our microphones, I started by asking the two of them what their personal opinions of the Smith's acoustics are.
It is truly a great sounding room. When you have something good sounding in it, it gets to you the same way. Yeah.
Amazing.
And it enriches it, and it just makes it sound nice, because there is a lot of rooms out there that just don't sound good,
I have had multiple opportunities to speak and in some cases perform on the stage of the Smith. And I love it for standing on stage and speaking to the audience with or without a microphone, because acoustically you really can speak to the back of the room. But it is still a space where if you are not amplified but you have a trained voice, you can be heard throughout the space very, very easily. And it is a space that is very friendly to the human voice. It is not necessarily, and Terren can certainly either back me up or correct me, it is not a space that is friendly to amplification.
Kelly's last point there, which Terren did agree with, is exactly why I was so perplexed about the Smith's acoustics. In learning about the history of the Smith, I found out that the space was specifically designed for amplified sound, and yet the space seems to work better with non-amplified sound.
I was surprised when you said that it had been carefully reconfigured. I'm not sure that carefully was the right word to use. That had been reconfigured from its original opera house beginnings as somebody actually thought about it acoustically as a movie palace. And something we should talk about at some point is how different movies were then, and that's where I think a lot of your question will be answered.
Kelly is referencing the fact that the original Smith Opera House, built in 1894, had been mostly demolished by 1931, and in its place the building we know today was created. It was then known as Shine's Geneva Theatre, and it was designed to be a movie palace. Certainly some structures, like the facade, remained from the original opera house, but the auditorium and the acoustics within were purpose-built for the movies of the 30s.
I believe that in the 30s it was producing the full richness of the sound movie experience, but to our ears, it's just not that rich.
Better than what people have ever heard before about
It had to sound amazing.
Yeah, it's probably mind-blowing. You've never heard something recorded.